Hello again. This is Jimmy, and you're reading with Jimmy, Pig and Pepper, Chapter 6 from Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. Last time we left off with Alice holding the baby after the Duchess flung at her, and we had a nice conversation about the poem that they were reading, that they were reciting about beating boys, and a lot of violence in these last couple of pages. So we left off, Alice is holding this baby, which now we're going to find out is not really a baby. And she keeps tight hold of its right ear and left foot so as to prevent it from undoing itself. She carried it, remember pronouns, into the open air. So she leaves the house. She's out of the house now. She thinks, if I don't take this child away with me, they're sure to kill it in a day or two. So she is interpreting what she has in her arms as a child, and she's trying to save it from being killed. Wouldn't it be murder to leave it behind? See, now Alice is being exposed to this very violent. I mean, the Duchess was having things thrown at her, plates, irons, and she's got this baby now that the Duchess flung because she has to go play croquet with the Queen. What the heck is that all about? She said the last words out loud. Wouldn't it be murder to leave it behind? She says those out loud. She's thinking the other stuff. And the little thing grunted in reply. Grunted. It had left off sneezing by this time. Why did it leave off sneezing? Because it's outside now. It's not in the smoky, peppery kitchen. Don't grunt, said Alice. That's not at all a proper way of expressing yourself. I'm sorry. So now she's talking to the baby and asks the baby not to grunt. Have you ever heard a baby grunt? Of course you have. In any case, the baby grunted again. Now remember, who's using the word baby? The narrator is. Why? Because Alice perceives what she's holding as a baby. The baby grunts again, and Alice looks very anxiously into its face to see what was the matter. Why is it grunting? And there could be no doubt that it had a very turned up nose. A very turned up nose, much like a snout. So she's taking a closer look at this baby. And she's now noticing that this nose is a snout. And its eyes were small for a baby. And Alice didn't like the look of this thing at all, but perhaps it was only sobbing, she thought, and looked into its eyes again to see if there were any tears. No, there were no tears. Very, very important. Very important. Tears. I don't know about you, but I only see tears in human beings. You see what I'm saying? Only tears in human beings. And so far, how many human beings have we met so far? I think the Duchess was a human being. Right? Go back and look at how many, the rest of these are creatures. You got a mouse, you got a frog, you got a fish, whatever. But tears are unique. It's like a smile. That's why the Cheshire Cat grin is so interesting. Cats don't grin. Animals don't grin. They laugh, but they don't grin. So if you're going to turn into a pig, my dear, said Alice seriously, I'll have nothing to do with you. Mine now. This is the moment. This is the moment when Alice says, if you're going to turn into a pig, I don't want nothing to do with you. The poor little thing sobbed again or grunted. It was impossible to say. I don't know how to delineate, to distinguish between a sob and a grunt. Do you? And they went on for some time in silence. Does the pig understand, but it can't talk English like the other creatures? It can't express itself in the English language. It can't talk like the other creatures have been talking to her. So Alice was beginning to think to herself now, what am I to do with this creature? Now it's no longer a baby, it's a creature. When I get it home, when I get this creature home, she says, what am I going to do? She's thinking to herself, when it grunted again violently, so violently, that she looked into its face with alarm, and this time there could be no mistake about it. It was neither more nor less than a pig. And she felt it would be quite absurd for her to carry it any further. So she let the little creature down and was relieved to see it trot away quietly into the wood. She releases the pig. There, it's really a pig. It's been a pig. So why did the narrator fool us, or did the narrator fool us? Remember, the third person narrator tells us things for reasons. He gives us words for reasons, and he did this for a reason, because Alice has perceived it as a baby all this time until she got it in her arms and started realizing this ain't no baby, this is a pig. And she lets it go. And then, if it had grown up, she says to herself, it would have made a dreadfully ugly child. Now she's talking to herself again. Now, if this wasn't a pig, if it was a child, it would have been really ugly. But it makes rather a handsome pig. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm telling you right now, if you don't find this marvelous, stop. Just leave. Leave Jimmy to his audience. Because I got some emails from the last chapter I'm going to talk to you about. She began thinking over other children she knew who might do very well as pigs, and was just saying to herself, if no one knew the right way to change them, when she was a little startled by seeing the Cheshire cat sitting on the bough of a tree a few yards off. So she starts thinking about children who could be pigs and change themselves up and back. She's using her imagination. Don't lose your imagination, ladies and gentlemen. And she suddenly sees the cat. And the cat only grins when it sees Alice. It looked good-natured. Again, it's a cat. It's grinning. And she thinks it's good-natured, but it has very long claws and many, many teeth, a great many teeth. So she felt she should treat it with respect. Again, there's that fear coming in. And she's got it. Why does she treat it? If it had no long claws or teeth, a lot of teeth, she wouldn't treat it with respect. That's interesting. Is that why you respect people? Because they have long claws and a lot of teeth? Cheshire Puss, she begins, rather timidly. Remember, this is a polite little girl. She talks to people and creatures politely, like she did when she met the mouse. Timidly. She didn't know whether or not it would like the name, Cheshire Puss. However, it only grinned a little wider when she talked to it. Come, it's pleased so far, thought Alice. Well, she's thinking now, it's pleased so far. So she goes on. Would you tell me, please, which way I ought to go from here? That's the question. Remember, she's been asking this question all along since she since she ran after that rabbit. She ran after that rabbit down the rabbit hole into Wonderland. And she's asking the cat now, which way should she go? How often have you asked someone, where should I go? What should I be when I grow up? What do I want to do in life? Before I let you go, think about that question. Jimmy got some emails from the last analysis about violence in those pages. So some of the emails I got back were saying, why do you enjoy violence so much, Jimmy? Why? Listen, let me address these things. I told you that the third person narrator is there for a reason. The third person narrator uses words that we have to believe if we're going to enjoy and understand the story and appreciate it. And he uses that one word, baby. Now, why does he use that word, ladies and gentlemen? Well, he uses the word because he's describing Alice's impression of what she's looking at from her position in Wonderland. She sees a baby. She sees the Duchess holding a baby amidst the smoke, amidst the things being thrown at the Duchess and the baby. She sees this violence going on, right? And it's a baby. If the narrator, not I, but if the narrator told you that the Duchess was holding a pig, you wouldn't react the same way. That's what one word will do. One word will change your impression of anything you're looking at. That's why position is so important. So, if you think about it carefully, the Duchess did call what the Duchess was holding a pig when Alice asked about the cat grinning. Why does the cat grinning? And Alice thought that she was calling her a pig. You remember when the Duchess reacted so violently and said pig? Right? Alice jumped and thought she was calling her a pig, but she was really calling that baby, which is not a baby, but it's a pig. You see, and I got emails both ways. I got emails thanking me for reading it like that, for interpreting it like that, for being amused by it. And I got other emails and saying, Jimmy, how can you do this? Oh, you're so cruel. I'm neither. I'm telling you what the third person narrator said about Alice's perception about this thing that the Duchess was holding. And you see, words mean things. All words mean things. Axis, remember? They mean things when we hear them, when we use them. They make us feel things. They make us feel other things, and we react. But remember, in this story, Alice is in Wonderland. And she's learning about who she is, what she is, where she's going in life. This is Wonderland. This is our Wonderland. We're all trying to figure out where we're going, aren't you? And you do this by using words. Words mean things, like I told you. And the interpretation of what you see through your senses can be right or it could be wrong. If it's right, it's a good thing. But what is right and wrong? We'll talk about that another time. In this case, her perception of what the Duchess was holding was wrong. She was terrified. She was jumping up and down at one point in agony, when she thought that was a baby. Now, should she feel agony if it was a pig? Well, if you're an animal rights person, of course, right? But it's less if it's a pig than if it's a baby, which is why you must read and reread this book. Think about it and enjoy it. I don't like violence, Jimmy. Yeah, I heard that from a few of you, but you have to understand violence, what causes violence, where it stems from, how to control it. Because, ladies and gentlemen, whether you admit it or not, look around you. Violence is part of the world we live in. And it's all based on people's reactions to things that words mean or they don't mean. What are we really talking about when we use these words? All I'm suggesting to you is that you and I live in a kind of wonderland, of which violence is part of it, right? We're going to talk about fear later on in this book, because fear is very an interesting concept. And besides, ladies and gentlemen, who gets hurt in this? I haven't, none of the Duchess didn't get hammered by this, fire iron that she got tossed at her, right? And if you're thinking about violence and you want to really think about violence, what about the video games you play? Some of you play. Now, there's violence. There's no violence in video games, obviously. Anyway, I want to thank you for your email. This is Jimmy. You're reading with Jimmy, Pig and Pepper. That was my little editorial about some of the emails I got. No worries. And if you stop enjoying this, that's okay too. It's up to you. I'm giving you the facts of Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. Jimmy at readingwithjimmy.com. Jimmy at readingwithjimmy.com. And I hope you stay with me, because you will not find a more wonderful, no pun intended, story. Thanks again. See you soon.